Hello and welcome to the Handicapable Black Woman Throne Room. My view of humanity is a whole new tea. And today I'm going to be talking about something that's just been really going through my mind lately, especially while trying to write both my superhero urban fantasy and then my Grim Reaper urban fantasy and getting more messages from dating apps. See, if I'm talking a little slow, I'm still trying to digest some of the messages that I've gotten this week. And then the ones last week where the guy literally called me the N word, and how, because I'm older, men tell me that either I have too many restrictions, I'm not allowed to have restrictions, my uterus is dried up anyway, so what use would a man have for me? But then when I think about politics within the Republican Party, I like listening to them. It's like they talk about the washed up cat ladies. And yes, some women don't want kids. Some of us do. I wanted kids, but then it leads to religion. I was trying to be married before I had kids, and I was trying to be with a husband. I dated a guy for 7 years, and let's just say I have story like being a honorary stepmother to a child who will run up and tell me she hates me, literally kicks me, and physically traumatizes me. But then when I go to the father, his rule was that I automatically had to love his children, but they did not have to like me. And he allowed them to treat me like garbage. But then I was too scared to leave the relationship because since I was still undiagnosed with my disability and my disability was getting worse, I was scared that no one else would love me. It wasn't until I was diagnosed and I realized I don't need to have a man. And I also, with another procedure that I had, I realized I can adopt and foster, but then I keep running into men who tell me, oh, that's stupid. You're going to adopt. You need to have your own. Oh, it's like I'm not spending any money on kids that aren't mine. It's like you're going to be stupid. You're an R word. And I've had and it's in the like I have so many more messages, and I know some people are like, oh, I've seen some of these a couple times already, and I have more in my in my phone and things, and it takes time. And since I am still learning disability life, I have my physical therapy and I'm lifting weights and I'm buying the materials so that I can try to get into better health. And then with my novels, doing my research, because with I just did a talk about how some of the booktubers or book talkers, they don't read all of the art that an author writes. And to each their own. If you paid for the book and you only want to read the parts that you want to read, you don't care about the depth, the possible depth. Because I mean, for some, it's an easy read, easy, smooth. Don't have to think much of it. And I don't know. It's just I put all of this effort, and at the same time, I notice while dating men, they don't like that. And again, with the Republican Party, they don't like that. Like they keep talking about the cat ladies, and they talk about how they need us to stay in the house. They don't want to pay for daycare. They don't want to help provide daycare like through the government, everything, because that means more women will be able to go out and start businesses and have high paying careers and being independent, which I keep seeing YouTube channels where men are being interviewed and they're talking about it will be easier to have a woman in poverty because then she can't leave me. And when I say something, she will have to do it. And men saying a man's going to leave an independent woman, which is true. That is so. And on, I forgot her full name, but TKO. She's a YouTuber and she talks about relationships. Really good stuff. And she doesn't realize how many of the videos where I have evidence or more examples. And she had this one where this guy literally accused her of being a slave to education or a slave to college or whatever. And I responded to it. And I'll do a video on that soon. But it was so disgusting how this one guy responded to me saying, no, there must be something wrong with me. There must be something wrong with me because it's like if there's more than one man who breaks up or doesn't want to be with the woman because she's educated, then it's her, not the guys. And all I have to say is like, do you know how many men told me that I wasted my time going to college? And one guy who, oh, you got all this fancy paper, you got 3 degrees, oh, but you're never going to use them. But once I prove how I'm using them, he tells me, oh, so you're trying to show out. It's like no man is ever going to feel good enough. And Mr. Thomas, which I dated for a couple months, he ghosted me and I found out because, yeah, when I went to his house, because, yeah, don't have a first date at someone's house because then you're going to have the address, duh. But he told me it's because, like, our last time talking, I showed him the my children's book that I just published. I think it was my third or fourth children's book. I was so excited. And I was excited that I was with him and I wanted to share that with him. And he said that it dawned on him that he will never be able to measure up to me and I was too good of a woman for him. And I'm not saying this happens all the time, but it's happened a lot where when I talk about my children's books and my novels and my podcasts and YouTube, like a lot of men, they can't stand that. They don't want to hear it. They're just like, no, no, no. It's like, oh, you could just help me with what I'm doing. And it's like, okay, you have your projects, you have your ideas, and I'll cheer you on. I'll help you out if and when, but I have my stuff too. But yeah, it's like a lot of guys don't like when women have their own original ideas, their own original projects. Because I even heard of with some of these women who they were traditional wives, and then their husbands either cheated on them, left them, kicked them out, whatever have you. But then the woman had to be independent and learn how to be independent, get a job and things like that, and survive like without them. And with there was one or two, no, there's two different examples where one of the women, she started her own business, and then she like he I think had a degree in business or something related to the business. And so he helped her out, they got married and everything. But then he was like, oh yeah, well, you like, don't worry about the business, stay home, make sure the kids are taken care of, and yes, like, just relax, and it's like when we come back together, no, 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 mm-mm. Once it was her time to come back, everything was in his name, and he wanted a divorce. But since it was in his name, she literally had to fight, and she lost majority of it. I think she only got like a minuscule amount of the business. And then there was another woman where they partnered and they started the business together. Ladies, if you're gonna start a business with a man, make sure your name is on the materials. Make sure leases and mortgages and, like, with the contracts and everything, make sure your name is on it. Have evidence, because if he leaves you, I say if because I can't stand it so much, but I keep seeing these things. And then I started a business with my ex, and he dropped it, like, because he got lazy and because he saw that I was becoming more independent. Because, well, I mentioned it in parts and everything, but I think he really quit. Like, he never justified his reasoning, but I think he saw that I was getting more clients and things were picking up. And I was even telling him how I was gonna be investing my money. I paid off all of my credit card debt, and I was paying off student loans, and I was told him I was gonna start saving for a mortgage. And all of a sudden he was like, oh yeah, quit. And I'm looking at him like, excuse me? Like, because I put money into the business, but it's at his house. And so I still now have to save up money so I can get the materials. And I have to get a U-Haul movers and everything like that. And part of me just wonders why. And he didn't pay one penny. He didn't pay one penny. And this is probably going to be a 3 or 4 part like series, but within the Republican Party, it's like they want to take away our fertility rights with abortion, IVF, and everything like that. But and then also there was a woman who was in jail for I believe 22 days because of a miscarriage. Men, if you like, okay, with the government, with police, how dare you? And part of me wants to know, did they go to the doctors? Did they interview the doctors that like, because I mean, she shouldn't have been in jail. And it's like, this is none of the government's business. But part of me is wondering, what kind of evidence did they like if someone miscarries, that's out of our control. It is. And especially for people who want babies, that's traumatizing. Absolutely traumatized. So if you're going to try to imprison a woman who was traumatized by the fact that she just lost a lot, like a potential life, some people call it a life, like some call it potential. Like I'm in between. I'm still like in between on it. My church says one thing, and I've learned I can't believe a lot of the stuff they say, because even with their whole marriage advice or dating, like nah, not for me. Because with even okay, back well, I can talk about Republican men later, but throughout this, you're going to be seeing examples of the messages that I get. And some of them are from passport type bros. Some are going to be Republican men, Republican MAGA men. Some are going to just be from inmates, men who are in prison. Some are who are still in prison. Okay, God, how do you get these cell phones in the prisons? I've asked this in another episode, but literally, how do you get these cell phones in the prisons? And then you have the nerve to get on dating apps and you're trying to date women. You're trying like, because I think they're just trying to get the money. I think they're trying to find women who are desperate enough. Like, oh, you're in prison. I want to save you. Oh, you're like a project. You're a difficult project. Oh, heck no. No, I'm not one of those. I'm not one of like, I've already had like after dating Mr. No Heart and especially Mr. Mr. Lockakey, who literally forced me to be his girlfriend. And then when he owed me money, yes, if you guys have been listening, you already know what happened. He blackmailed me, telling me in order for me to get the money back that he owed me, I would have to get back with him and sleep with him in order for me to get the money he owed me. But then he found his middle school sweetheart, and then he gave her the cell phone when I called for the money. I didn't want to date this man again. I had to return stolen property. He stole from his jobs. And I was so tired of it. So when he snuck out of the house to go do something, I bagged up the stolen property and had to return it to the job. I talked about that in another episode too. But it's like next thing I know, I'm calling for the money. I think she doesn't realize I left him. I wanted nothing to do with him but my money. So then she calls me the N word a few times. I want to say several, but it's like a few to several times. But she just says that it's like she's gonna take me to court if I keep calling, and I'm just like, what? Like, I don't want him. But these are the type of men that are in America. And it's like the one guy, like years ago when I first started grad school, who told me either I'm going to date him or go to grad school. I'm not going to do both because he doesn't want a smart woman. And then throughout life, I meet men and I tell like while I was working on my first master's, oh, you're working on that? No, I'm good. Oh, I don't want a smart girl. Oh, when I worked on my second master's after I broke up with Mr. Lockakey, Oh, you going back for another? Oh no, you're a headache. That'll be a headache right there. Nah, it's like you're gonna argue with me, or you're gonna not follow my directions. You're not gonna do what I say. Blah blah blah. Like, yeah, you know what? You're right. And that's one reason I've realized I'm not gonna be a submissive woman. It's like if I know you're wrong, like when Mr. No Heart told me you don't have to clean the recyclables. And I kept telling, like, I was even trying to show him proof, like, see, look, 2020 did a whole story on this. And he slams his on the table and says, no, you don't, yelled at me. Mm-hmm. He didn't realize that day. Like, I think it was before that I realized he wasn't for me. But that day right there, I was just like, you know what? Yep, we're breaking up. I don't know when, because I was too scared to be alone. But I was like, yeah, this ain't, no, no, no. And then even during COVID, when I broke up with him, meeting guys who hated my education, when I talk about my children's books, or it's like, well, some black men, not all black men, but some black men, oh, you're one of those white girl wannabes. Oh, you're trying to be smart. You're trying to do something. Oh, I'm not gonna have time for that. It's like, can't we just chill? It's like, yeah, I just want you to come over and chill with me. Why should be like, yeah, I want you to just do that. And then when I'm like, well, no, I was like, I'd rather just, can we go to a bookstore or a cafe or something, talk, get to know each other. And oh, like, yeah, no, you're one of those. Yeah, it's like, and then when I talk about that I'm starting a YouTube channel, a podcast, and oh, I'm gonna have some of the stories, but I don't know. It's just really ridiculous. It's just to the point where, especially with the elections coming up, and I keep hearing like some of the Republican politicians say some of the most disgusting things, and is and with dating apps, my top thing, like one of my top standards are you must not be MAGA, Republican, or a Trump supporter. Each one is a little different. Or ultra MAGA, definitely not. No. So, but when when a man will vote for somebody who brags and talks about grabbing women by the private parts, and then with even the pageants, he brags about walking in on the women, the beautiful women while they're nude or not all the way dressed, and how much he enjoyed being able to do that because of who he was and his image and how rich he is. And then the power of him writing a front page like article about men who were found to be innocent, but then he brags and says they said they were guilty. When these boys, I think they were teenagers, when the police were interrogating them for hours and hours and hours, and like I think one of them, their reason was like they had to go to the bathroom, and it's like they won't let them go to the bathroom, so they said anything that would let them just not have to go on themselves. And then with the like segregation, or like just with Kung Flu and what he called Africa, it's like one item after another item after another item. And then a lot of these pastors are saying, oh, we need our women to look like his wife. And like, thank God you guys, like, well, some of you guys do look like Trump. Yeah, some of you do. But it's really funny how these men keep saying how women are losing themselves and women need to look like her. But he's a billionaire. She can pay to look like that. Look at the Kardashians. Kardashians are proof. You pay for how you look. And yeah, sometimes you can manage or do things on a lower budget, but these men act like especially after you have kids, it's like with estrogen and metabolism and everything else, and then you're taking care of these kids, and then it's like men expect women to just snap back into place. Yeah, when you're famous millionaires and you have personal trainers and dietitians and everything like that, it might not be easy. It might be easy, but it's just with a lot of the things that I'm hearing, like, oh, and that one kicker on that football team who had the nerve to say that speech is like right there. He's like, when there was one guy that I was kind of talking to on an app, but then he admitted that he lied to me and that he is kind of like he likes Trump. He says he's not sure if he would vote for him again. And I remember I was like, again, you told me you never voted for him. And he was like, yeah, I know, but when I saw your profile and it's like you just seem so sweet, I had to at least try to have a chance with you. And I was like, so you lied. Okay, so you lied, but just with a lot of the things Trump has done, and I'll get back to that other, like I already see I'm kind of running low on time and everything, so I'll hop back on that in another video. But when I keep seeing what the Republican Party represents, especially when they talk about women, and like they want the traditional wives, they want the woman that they can control, they want like the men to feel like the alpha males. But I'm not like, what is a real man? It's like sometimes when I go through dating apps, it gets really annoying and frustrating when men are emotionless, and or the only thing they show is, oh, I hunted a fish, or I got a deer. I got like, okay, like I don't care. Like men don't care about women's education and their goals and stuff. Like some of us don't care about the fish and the animals you hunt. Is like, because to me it's like I don't like think like, I'm not a vegetarian, but I don't like watching or seeing the animal like that. It's like, and sometimes, especially, I know people who they just hunt the animal, but they don't eat it, they don't use it. And like being quarter Native American, like part of me feels like if you're gonna use it, use it. Use the entire, like use as much as you can. And especially even if it's the horns, it's like either artwork or something. But because I don't like hunting, but at the same time, if you're gonna hunt, at least respect the animal in that regard. And something like I've been thinking about that with one of my projects as well, because I know guys who are like, oh no, I just like eliminating like things, or with the K word though. When I dated that one guy from that joined the army, the first time, yeah, that this is the one where the first time I called after we messaged each other for like a week or two, might have been a little longer, but I remember I picked up the phone. I was like, hi, hello, hi, how are you? His first response was like, oh, thank God you talk like a white woman. Oh, I wanted to just hang up on him right then and there. But after dating Mr. No Heart, part of me was just like, well, he's got to be better than him. But then I found out, nope, he was a Trump supporter. He lied. A lot of Trump supporters lie to me too. Even though I like, and that's the thing. Trump supporters, why would you want to deal with or talk with a woman you don't have anything in common with? That's kind of, come on now. Use your common sense. I try to save myself time because I only have one life, and I want to cherish as much of my life with ease, with flow, and not being argumentative. Because if I like, yeah, if I dated or even, oh, I would never. But by chance, if I ever married a man who was a Trump or MAGA, there would be fights every day, and we would be on divorce court or something. I know it. And that's another thing. Some of the Republicans are trying to outlaw and trying to eliminate default divorce. But society doesn't like there's awful women out there, but there's a lot of awful men out there. There are some men who they told me once, like, if they were going to date me, and they, some of them only want to date me because of my ambitions. And they said that, oh, one of them, oh, I'm so glad he talked too much. But he said once we got married, he was going to quit his jobs and he was going to stay at home. But he doesn't like to cook. He doesn't like to cook. And he showed me pictures of his house. It was dirty. I'm like, so if you don't clean, if you don't cook, like, not like, yeah, mm-mm. And he has a son. Because this is when I've mentioned this before, but I remember the night when he yelled at me because I was like, you have a son, so you will be working to take care of your son. Well, if we get married, he's your stepson. Yeah, step. Step. Yeah, I said it just like that too. Because I was like, nah, you ain't, not today. Not today. And so then he was trying to give me a whole little lecture, and it's like, yeah, that was the last time he talked to me. Because the thing is, I want to hear everything he had to say. Because I'm like, you know what, I can put this in my novel. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that's why, yeah, if you like, I don't know if it might be in part 2 or part 3 or whatever, but yeah, he tried to brainwash me on that garbage. Nah, I will adopt and foster, so they will be my kids. Okay, nothing wrong with stepkids, but at the same, like, after dating Mr. No Heart, and he told me his kids were a mistake, and he told me that I was too old and that I should not have kids and I better not have kids and I need to be thankful that I don't have kids. It's I like I I would date a guy with kids, but at the same time he needs to respect the fact that I'm going to adopt and I'm going to foster. He has to at least recognize my my choice, the option. But okay, I'll leave it here. But thank you for listening to the Handicapable Black Woman Throne Room. My view of humanity is a whole new tea. Take care. Be careful out there. Be careful. I don't know who's gonna win this. I'm either way. I'm never gonna vote a MAGA. No, I'm never gonna date one. Nope, 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 never, never.